All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. We are live as we close out this Monday, January 26th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. A lot of things have happened since the market opened. We have a variety of different headlines to go through as we get into the close, including some new stocks that have now been purchased by some familiar faces. Talking about Nancy Pelosi and Michael Burry. We'll talk about that. And a variety of different headlines that are coming out in regards to the macro. We've got some updates on gold, silver, and growth stocks. Now, if you take a look at what's going on right here, growth is getting hit. It was getting hit in the morning, and it was kind of not getting hit. Now it's getting hit. Rocket Lab right there, 9.6%. Rocket Lab going below 80. It didn't go below 80 today, but if it does, it would be the first time in a couple of weeks we actually see below 80 on Rocket Lab. ASTS, 120 to 105. Iran down 7%. Tesla down 3%. Ondas, ugly day, down 9.5. CRML, even though USAR got a $1.6 billion stake by the United States federal government, that is now only up 6%. This stock was at $40 in the pre-market. It was up 35%. Now it's only up 7%. MP Materials down 8%. Rigetti down 7%. D-Wave down 7%. Nebius, which got to 98, now down 2%. SanDisk down 0.5%. Intel down another 5%. PayPal somehow ended up green today. Booz Allen Hamilton actually got some contracts canceled with the government, which is why that stock is down 8%. AMD is down 3%. Oracle, Broadcom, Adobe, and Salesforce ended up going green on today. So you have some of the semiconductor data center names going green. And then you have software that actually is having a decent day. IGV, the software ETF, holding on. That's up 1.37%. NVIDIA as well, kind of holding on a little bit, 186.61. Robinhood as well going green, Google going green, Microsoft going green, and Meta having a phenomenal day at 673, which is why the S&P 500 is holding 693.60, actually just below 694, which was the high of the day. Kind of a rotation from super high beta growth, dare I say, into large caps, which is not too crazy. You've got large cap earnings coming up on Wednesday, a ton of them, and obviously those earnings are going to be super important. Microsoft right here, pretty nice day, 1.4% after being up 3% on Friday. So maybe some people are saying, hey, I'm going to sell some of my high beta growth and pile into Meta and Microsoft before they deliver some really good earnings. But nonetheless, you are seeing that rotation right here, and maybe that rotation lasts throughout the end of the week. Bitcoin right here, 87.7 down from 88.750. Ethereum as well was not able to crack above 3,000, 29.10. BMNR, that stock is down 3% on the day. MicroStrategy, actually Hood being up, even though crypto was down, is nice to see. MicroStrategy right there down 1% on the day. By the way, Saylor did buy another $200 million of Bitcoin this morning that we forgot to talk about. So Saylor did indeed buy more at 90,000. I think the real interesting thing, regardless of the big tech names getting some more momentum throughout the day, and yet, unfortunately, NVIDIA is still down 0.5%, is gold and silver. So silver ended up getting to $116 an ounce in the United States. Gold ended up getting above 5,100. And then they took a breather about an hour ago. As you can see right there, the chart looks pretty ugly. You can see from 116 all the way down to 105. Now it's back at 108, which is not crazy. Still a 5% day. Like, that's a hell of a move. And then gold right there took a little bit of a dip and starting to recover as well. The interesting thing about gold and silver, which this stat blew my mind and it might scare some people, but it's kind of crazy. At one point, it was up 12.5%. This was the biggest one-day increase on silver since 2008. Kind of crazy. The biggest one in 2008, we had a lot of different things happen in 2008. The fact that silver posted its biggest one-day increase, which obviously makes sense why it's now taking a breather, because 12% up on a precious metal might not be able to last throughout the entire day. But it's kind of incredible. 17 years and we get the biggest day in silver in a long time. A lot of people are thinking it's not sustainable. They might be right. But there's a lot of people ready to buy that dip as well if it gets to the 10-year right. They're still holding at 4.2, down a little bit on the day, but you're not seeing as much of the buyers come in on the 10-year. So, I mean, the question is, for the people that are short silver, like, do they actually add to their shorts now that you saw this decline right there? As you can see, SLV went from 106 to 98. I don't know. I think it's a scary game. I think there's a lot of forces that are much more powerful here. I think there's a bigger argument for why we had the best day for silver in the past 17 years. And I don't really know what the answer to that question is. I would love to hear some theories on it. But there's something that's happening. Either a short position that broke, someone had to cover their shorts, maybe some banks are in trouble. I mean, maybe the demand really is just exceeding supply to such an extent that it's grinding towards those levels. But you did see it take a bit of a breather. Silver now up 5% on the day after being up 12% at one point. Microsoft right there, 471. Google at 333. Robinhood just going red as we get into the end of the day. We got about 9 minutes left. And then ServiceNow up 2.5%. What is happening with Nebius? Now, CoreWeave, the big story was that CoreWeave got a $2 billion investment by NVIDIA. CoreWeave got up to $108. It is now at 98.80. Still a great day, up 6.2%, but obviously it's down from those 108 highs. I think the reason Nebius pumped is because NVIDIA owns a decent chunk of Nebius as well, not as much as CoreWeave, but maybe people thought, oh, if NVIDIA is investing heavily in CoreWeave, then eventually they'll increase their investment in something like Applied Digital, which hit $40 today. Now it's at 36.18, down 4%, and Nebius. That rumor might, which is just like a theory that I think some people have, might not be reality. I ran right there, down 7%. So I think the only reason CoreWeave is up is because they got this NVIDIA investment. I don't know exactly why the other data center names are down, but they are down compared to CoreWeave. And I think they pumped only based on CoreWeave getting some momentum. Even CleanSpark down 8% on the day. Again, don't see a crazy headline for these, but these did get hit. I felt the 6% on Nebius was fake. Yeah, Nebius at this point has gone up and down 6%. I think every single week, if not every single day for the past couple of weeks. I mean, we've seen the stock at 82 and 110, like 20, 30 times back and forth. I mean, the amount of times that you've been able to trade this name up and down is quite incredible. So I think you either are bullish on it and you're holding for the long term, or you're trading it, but it's not been a name that's necessarily been reliable to hold on to its gains, at least in the short term. Meta, though, again, great day, 672, almost pushed above 675. Looks like she wants to make a breakout to 700. Now, maybe this is too much, too quick before the earnings, and it's setting up for a disappointment, or it's just running into earnings, and earnings is going to give us the cherry on top. You had a couple firms come out today and once again reiterate their buy rating on Meta with a, I think, 875 target. You had a couple firms last week with 900. You know, maybe that ends up playing out, but it will be up to Zucks to deliver a pretty good earnings for us to see if that can be the case. Gold and silver, again, continuing to get momentum. Here is Mr. Tom E on what he thinks is happening with the overall precious metals.
Metals is proving to be a real genuine asset class, because I think for many years, maybe people thought only gold bags should own gold, but now, especially the last 3 years, metals have, I think, proven to be a bit of a juggernaut. And it's hard to tell how much of it is geopolitical uncertainty, dollar and currency weakness versus dovish central banks. But maybe if it's all three, that explains why gold's done so well. I don't think that those are bad for equities, because if this is anticipating dollar weakness or more dovish moves by central banks, then it's good for asset prices. So I almost think the gold move could be sort of a glimpse into sort of risk appetite growing for stocks.
As a result of things like dollar weakness and everything else, right? This idea that you go into more riskier assets or ones that are diversified away from there. If you're going to look at that, though, with the dollar weakness intact, Kelly also mentioned the Mag 7 stocks and the slew of earnings we've got coming up. Weaker dollar has typically in the past, from a conventional wisdom standpoint, meant better for large multinational companies. It helps their overall revenue profile, especially outside the US. Is that still something that we want to look towards as a true tailwind for this market, other than just saying maybe risk assets are in vogue and we just want to play the AI trade ad nauseum for the rest of this year?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think one of the big sort of real stories this year is earnings growth is accelerating. And that was because of onshoring, the tariff headwinds disappearing. But now if we have dollar weakness, I think it puts more upside to the earnings story. Investors aren't necessarily paying for that right now because multiples have been compressing, but I think it really helps anchor stocks. So between now and the end of the year, I think there can be a lot of reasons for speed bumps, but I think as we exit the year, the earnings story is anchoring up, I'd say, upside to our 7,700 target.
Yeah, which is, I mean, we're starting to look at, we've seen one round number after another falling for gold and the likes, and you wonder if we're finally going to get back to talking about S&P 7,000 and Dow 50K and all of that. But so you're not worried there's going to be, you know, kind of landmines hiding in the earnings reports or anything like that? Does the government shutdown matter? I mean, we just had one at the end of the year, and yet here we are with equities.
Yeah, in the short term, of course, shutdowns create uncertainty, and we just, like as you said, went through the longest one. Those have all proven to be buying opportunities, but it's like it's hard to ignore the fact that gold and silver are like sucking oxygen out of everything.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you do with? I mean, Carter Worth, for what it's worth, I want to know what all the technicians, what everyone thinks about this. He's now put out a note and saying, sell all of it, the silver, right? Just sell all of it. I mean, it's up.
It's parabolic.
Today.
It's parabolic.
Yeah,
and it's just in the last 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, like when you look at extensions like this, it's dangerous to fade it because you don't know how long it will go. But you're right. A parabolic move, Holly, marks the end of the move, not the beginning of the move. So it's a good question of like timing, but it sure seems like commodities, especially precious metals, needs to have a place in people's portfolios.
So you got Tom that you can tell he's sounding not necessarily the most bullish on commodities, as from his perspective, they are sucking the air out of everything when it comes to assets that could be benefiting from that additional capital. Obviously, the elephant in the room, Bitcoin and Ethereum. But the question becomes, like, was that the top that we saw today on silver? And like, I don't know. I feel like it's naive to say it is, especially without really understanding a core catalyst that made it happen. It's more likely that, hey, something's up 12% on the day. It's going to take a breather, which is exactly what we saw with CoreWeave. But if money continues to diversify into those asset classes, just based on the fundamental argument around debasement and diversification from the dollar, maybe this run has a lot more to go, which would not be the best for Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is probably why Tom is not the happiest about precious metals getting the run that they've had. S&P 500 right there, 692.85. GameStop, Michael Burry's now long. This news came out right after the market open. We got 2 minutes left until the market closes, so I'm not going to give all my thoughts yet on the GameStop buy, but I have 2 specific takes on this that I think just make this buy pretty complicated. So we'll talk about that after the bell. But this was his quote from his Substack. I own GameStop. I have been buying recently. I expect I am buying at what may soon be trading at 1x tangible book value and getting a young Ryan Cohen investing and deploying the company's capital and cash flows perhaps for the next 50 years. I have a take on this that hopefully will make sense to people, but I could not believe what I was reading when this came out. So one thing is for sure, he could not get this thing to pump. I mean, if Roaring Kitty came out and said this, GameStop would be $40 right now. He pumped it like 8% and then people sold. So Burry's not really the best pumper when it comes to GameStop, but he's long. So, you know, Nvidia, Palantir, horrible companies, bubble, but GameStop, that's the one that we got to look into. So we'll talk more about that after the bell. I'm curious what people think about this buy. All right, 45 seconds until we close the equity markets for Monday, January 26th. We made some good progress on the S&P 500, up 0.5%. Again, the large caps are really going to determine. IWM was down about 0.34%, where the S&P goes. I think we see 7,000 this week if Apple, Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla deliver. Even if one of them like really deliver, hopefully 2 out of 4 deliver, but even if one of them really delivers, it could be enough to drive up the S&P. But we're going to need some good earnings. And we have no earnings after the bell. We'll get through a bunch of different headlines we have. And then Wednesday is our big day, FOMC. And then 3 of the big tech companies that will be reporting. All right, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Monday, January 26th, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. All right, we are done for the day. S&P 500, 692.66 is where we end on the day. After hours red by a little bit, actually up by a little bit, 692.74 in the after hours for the S&P 500. Meta, 672.36, not too bad. Meta, nice little 2% day after basically a 10% week, bottoming at $600, and now you see the move at 672. IGV software, that was up 1% of the day. GameStop was up 4% of the day. Disney actually up 0.3%. Nancy Pelosi did sell 10,000 shares of Disney. She sold 5,000 shares of PayPal and 45,000 shares of Apple. She exercised in the money call options on Google, Tempest, Nvidia, and Amazon. We talked about that in the morning, but Pelosi did file that she is out of Disney and PayPal officially. She has a little bit of Apple calls for 2027, but she did sell a decent amount of Apple as well. Microsoft, Green Day, 470.28. That's up 0.93%. Google, 333.26. That was up 1.63. Robinhood, up a penny on the day at 107. The market makers are just not letting Robinhood get any real source of momentum. ServiceNow was actually up 2.39%. A lot of the software names, Salesforce, Adobe, et cetera, got a little bit of a move. Baba was down 1%. Baidu was down 3%. China, JD was down 0.2%. So some of the Chinese names took a bit of a hit after those articles that came out over the weekend of Xi Jinping purging some of the highest military officials. VG down 5% of the day. Actually, a lot of the energy names got hit. Bloom Energy, T1 Energy, all of those down about 4% of the day. So it seems like VG kind of got mixed into those algos of the energy names going down. Even Centrus Energy, which had some good headlines today, that was down 5% on the day. Apple was green, 3%, 255 after getting hit by 3% last week. Zeta was also red, 3% down on the day. Zoom, okay, I finally figured out why Zoom was up today. Remember Zoom was up freaking 8% in the morning and none of us had a clue? It was disclosed that they invested in Anthropic in the Series C. And people are estimating the stake is worth like $8 billion. That's why Zoom is up today. Nothing about their AI virtual meetings or anything. They happened to be lucky enough to invest in Anthropic a couple of years ago. I think it was May of 2023. And boom, stocks up 11%, which makes sense. I mean, they have a big equity stake that they're going to be able to show on their portfolio when the company goes public. But I mean, the fact that that's the reason it pumped was quite incredible. So 95.46 on Zoom as that one got some momentum. Trade Desk right there, that was down 7% on the day. Palantir was down about 1.26%. Amazon was down 0.3%. Amazon again has a 15% stake in Anthropic, so that one not getting any love on that. Mercado Libre, that was up 3%. Grab was flat on the day, 456. Did get to 466, then ended up going red. Gold right there again up 1.4%. Oscar was flat. CopX was up a little bit, up 2.3%. AppLovin was up 2%. And then you had your quantum names that ended up taking a hit. D-Wave right there down 7.3%. Your space names as well took a hit. Rocket Lab 80.45 down 9%. I think this was the worst day for Rocket Lab in 2026. And then ASTS as well down 7.7%. That one got hit as well. ZSL, the inverse silver ETF, had almost 1 billion shares traded today. Wow, I did not know that. JKL, thanks for the super chat. ZSL, yes, 788 million in volumes. Stock was still down 16%, although it bounced off 150. That's when silver started coming down. SLV, by comparison, had 373 million shares that were traded today. So you had a decent chunk of people, I guess, go short silver, 2x the volume of SLV itself. But you know, it still took a 16% haircut as silver rallied today. Ethereum right there, just below 3,000 or just below 2,900, and then Bitcoin, 87,500 on the day as well. All right, so let's talk about some of these headlines. Let's talk about how today ended. And again, earnings will be starting realistically tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we have UNH. That's a big one. Let me know in the chat who still owns UNH. Boeing, that's a big one. Raytheon, defense contractor, that's a big one. GM, they had a great year last year. That's a big one. American Airlines, NextEra Energy, HCA Healthcare. And then obviously the most important company on the planet. This is the one that, you know, quite literally does not get the respect it deserves. But UPS will be tomorrow morning as well. So we're gonna have to talk about that. After the close tomorrow, we have Texas Instruments, Seagate, and Next Tracker. Seagate and Texas Instruments, I think, are going to be the more important ones. So that'll be after the close tomorrow. And then Wednesday is where we get the big tech earnings, which will be important. UNH calls for Jan 2027. I sold my UNH. I bought Novo instead. I have UNH. I have UNH and Boeing, holding UNH to 425. All right, tomorrow, if they can increase that EPS guidance, you know, maybe UNH tends to benefit, but tomorrow we will see what those earnings look like. All right, so let's get into some of these headlines. So let me do my my Burry rant real quick. I thought this was kind of ridiculous, and let me know what people think. So Michael Burry is long GameStop, which makes sense why Ryan Cohen, the CEO, bought 1 million shares last week. I think there's two reasons this makes absolutely no sense. Number one, if you were to say NVIDIA's a bubble and Palantir is a bubble and AI is a bubble and all these companies are, why is UNH down 4% and interrupting my rant? I'm trying to rant. What the hell's happening, right? We were just talking about this thing for like 2 seconds. Goodness gracious, bro. Okay, pause on the rant. UNH down 5%. Did they pre-release their earnings or something? Oh boy. Trump administration proposes flat rates for Medicare Advantage, CMS, and White House, or says the White House. That's not necessarily the best for these private healthcare companies. Wow. That came right at the bell. Holy crap. Wall Street Journal reports Trump administration proposes flat rates for Medicare Advantage and CMS. Hold about. Where's Elevance? That's ELV, right? Elevance down 3%. CNC is another one, right? Down 1.6. HCA not down too much. UNH getting the brunt. 6% on UNH. Oh my goodness. That's ugly, dude. They didn't even say their earnings yet. They didn't even have a chance. I mean, the earnings, analysts already have some pretty low expectations I'm reading right here, but this headline, remember Kevin Hearn sold $500,000 worth of his UNH last week. We talked about that on Thursday. He sits on the House Subcommittee of Health. a little relevant when he sells $500,000 worth of a healthcare stock when he sits on the House Subcommittee on Health. Goodness, dude. You know, this is one of the reasons I never got into UNH. I don't know enough about healthcare. This is also a reason I didn't get into Oscar. Like, I don't know enough about the internal dynamics of the policy around healthcare. And, you know, am I willing to learn that much about it? Like a little bit, but not enough to like really put my money where my mouth is. 7% down now on UNH as that one's getting hit. Okay, I mean, like, can you pull up the headline? Yeah, let me see if I can get the actual article on this. Right now, it looks like it's just a quote from the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, Cactus, do we have an article? I don't think we have an article on this, right? UNH, Trump administration proposes flat rates for Medicare Advantage. Yeah, it's just a quote. That's all it is. Where did they even propose this? Is this a tweet? I don't see it. They might have put out a statement on the website. Oscar's probably down right now as well, right? Oscar, UNH now 8% down. Dude, it's how ironic. We were just talking about their earnings. And then this happens. Oscar down about 1%. No tweet by Trump. Just the Wall Street Journal headline. Now, okay. Do people think this matters? I mean, obviously, short term, this is ugly. Trump can propose whatever he wants, but question is if it gets through. Okay, I see the article. Thank you, Cactus. He just sent this. Let's see if we can read a little bit from this, and then we'll talk about GameStop. Humana's down 7% now as well. Trump administration proposes keeping... Dude, this dropped at 404. It's 409. How much is UNH worth? UNH is worth $318 billion. So if we do some quick maths, UNH just lost $22 billion in 5 minutes. Kind of crazy. The proposal for a 0.9% average rate increase is less than what Wall Street expected and will probably hurt health insurer stocks. Under the proposal, payments to the plans would increase by an estimated 0.09% on average in 2027. The announcement, which CMS is scheduled to make on Monday, will likely push down shares of insurance giants like CVS, Humana, and UNH. The Medicare agency is also proposing to eliminate a lucrative industry billing practice that has raised concerns with government watchdogs and was among the tactics in reporting by the Wall Street Journal. I think this has to do with the PBMs, which has never been bullish for UNH, but obviously is part of that whole like Trump RX reform of healthcare. A Medicare official said the proposal aimed to improve payment accuracy and ensure Medicare insurers get adequately reimbursed. The agency wants to focus on bolstering the billing system. The private Medicare plan, known as Medicare Advantage, is a core business for the insurers, and federal payment policies have a huge impact on their finances. The 0.09% increase is worth around $700 million to the total industry. Analysts had predicted that Medicare agency would propose a 2027 rate increase roughly in the 4 to 6% range. This year, health insurers got a 5.06% increase, which was more than expected. A main reason the proposed rates fall short of Wall Street analysts' estimates is tied to federal staff actuaries' calculation of spending growth, which is tied to costs in the traditional Medicare program. I think this is decent for consumers, if I'm not wrong, but this is not good for the actual healthcare providers. Under the proposal, insurers wouldn't get paid for medical chart-derived diagnoses that aren't linked to a specific medical service, such as a doctor visit. That's where I think it might be decent for the consumers. The proposal wouldn't affect payments for diagnoses unearthed through chart reviews if they are tied to medical encounters. The change brought the projected 2027 payment rates down by 1.53%. Okay, looks like they're getting rid of a common industry billing practice that would be eliminated under the new proposal. Payments in the Medicare Advantage program go up when patients have particular medical conditions, a setup known as risk adjustment. This would eliminate the use of a medical chart reviews to document diagnosis for their enrollees, and they're increasing the payment plans by 0.09%, which is not the best for these healthcare companies. UNH, this stock, Humana down 11%, UNH 7.2. Humana's getting hit a bit worse. 10.8. Humana, $31 billion company. UNH, $318 billion company, down 7%. CVS should be down as well, right? CVS, yeah, that's down 8%. Where's Hims? Is Hims getting hit by this? No, Hims not getting hit. All right, it is what it is. It happens. This is the stock market. It could happen to anyone else in any other different sector. News happens after hours, and then boom, algos react, people react, institutions react, and you see some pain. NVIDIA right there, 186.29 after hours. UNH now down 7%. Yeah, Hims has been hit enough already. That's fair. If Palantir or AI can find the diagnosis from data in the patient chart, they don't need to charge a crap ton for it. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of arguments for how AI can solve a lot of these inefficiencies. I mean, the fact that Booz Allen Hamilton, the Treasury is accusing them of messing up taxpayer data, like, I don't think Palantir would have those types of issues. So Booz Allen Hamilton down 8% today. Makes sense for some of those funds to be reallocated. But the problem with healthcare is that it's a monopolistic system where a few companies have continued to benefit at the behest of actual patient health for the past at least 30 years in the United States. And Trump is legitimately trying to make a change to that. And if he does, I mean, the earnings estimates for these stocks might not be the best. It's just that simple. And they were already pretty depressed for UNH. So even if they increase their EPS tomorrow, I wonder how this is going to be playing a factor right now. All right, that's what you got with UNH. I'll try to get Chris's perspective tomorrow. I mean, Chris might not be available right now, but we'll try to see what I'm sure he would have to read through this as well to even have a take on what this looks like. I mean, put in the chat if you're bullish UNH. Is this bearish? Is this a nothing burger? Is this just a proposal that doesn't really have a chance of going through? Or tomorrow when the market opens and actual money comes in, do we see an ugly day? Now, maybe UNH can hedge that by putting up a really good earnings tomorrow. Then again, analysts are already kind of bearish on the earnings. So it's a little tough spot to be in. Remember, Berkshire, does Berkshire still own this thing? Does Buffett still own it? I think they sold a decent chunk of it. Let me see right here. No, they still own it. They have 5 million shares. They still own a decent chunk. Most of you guys saying bearish. All right. We're going to find out on those earnings what happens. UNH still getting hit right there. 8.2%, just continuously falling right now based on this headline after hours. All right, cool. So let's get back into the Burry rant. Here's the simple rant that I have to say. Now, Burry says I'm long GameStop, and he wants to be long Ryan Cohen's investment prowess for potentially the next 50 years of investing the company's capital and cash flows. There's two reasons I think this doesn't make sense, and let me know what people think. Number one, Burry saying NVIDIA, AI, Palantir, all this stuff is going to collapse and it's going to be a meltdown worse than the dot-com bubble. Burry is on record. He has said this multiple times. He thinks the AI bubble will be catastrophic. If that were to happen, do we think GameStop stock is going to go up? Yes or no? Very simple. If NVIDIA were to fall to $100 tomorrow, which is, Burry is pretty confident that NVIDIA is a bubble and it's all going to collapse. The data center build out doesn't make sense, yada, yada. I don't think GameStop is going to hold $24. So if you're pushed back to that as well, oh, he wants to be a long-term investor in GameStop, sure. But I think Burry also cares about entry price. And if he's buying this thing at even $22, $21, $20, $18, we all know GameStop's going a lot lower if NVIDIA were to collapse by 50%, which is what Burry has said. So I think this makes absolutely no sense. And I think, by the way, I think there's a fundamental argument to go long GameStop based on its tangible book value, based on its price of sales, based on their market cap, based on the cash they have on hand. I think there is a legitimate bull case for GameStop. I don't think you can be intellectually consistent by saying, oh, the market's going to collapse, but I want to own GameStop in the midst of the market collapsing. Like that, to me, I don't understand how that one makes sense. Just logically, if NVIDIA were to collapse, which is what Burry's saying is going to happen, I don't know if GameStop is immune to also collapsing, even if it's unjustified that GameStop collapses, but just like the algorithm, the whole market is going to take a hit. Like your GameStop position is not going to do that well. Number two, he says he wants to be long Ryan Cohen because of his investing prowess. Last time I checked, the only thing Ryan Cohen has done with the billions of dollars that he has raised from diluting the shareholders of GameStop over the past 5 years, the only thing he has done is buy Bitcoin. Burry thinks Bitcoin is stupid. So how can you say I want to be long a young Ryan Cohen investing and deploying the company's capital and cash flows when the only thing Ryan Cohen has done from an investing perspective with the company's capital and cash flows, by the way, it's not even their cash flows, it's the cash they get on hand from diluting retail investors, is buy crypto. And they bought it at the top, correct. They didn't even freaking buy it in May of 2024 when they were doing the dilution. They diluted by 115 million shares. They raised $4.5 billion. I remember covering this back in May of 2024. That's when Roaring Kitty came back to life and started pumping GameStop. Bitcoin was at 50,000. They ended up buying at 109,000. So, I mean, like, what are we talking about here? I couldn't, and again, I have respect for Burry. I think there is a fundamental argument that you can make to go long GameStop. I've never thought it was like the dumbest stock on the planet. So there's plenty of other stocks that don't have the type of cash flows or cash on hand, or even, you know, Ryan Cohen's not a bad CEO. I think there is, I mean, the guy already had an exit with Chewy. Like, he's not an idiot. It's just the logic behind buying GameStop makes no sense if you think AI is a bubble, because GameStop's going to collapse at that moment as well if the AI market collapses. And then B, you're trusting Ryan Cohen, but the only thing he's done is he hasn't bought textile stocks. I mean, it's almost sounding like Burry's saying Ryan Cohen is the next Buffett. Perhaps for the next 50 years, he's going to be deploying the company's capital. Is he going to turn GameStop into a mini Berkshire Hathaway? And is he going to do that by buying the thing that Burry thinks absolutely has zero value? Like, it's confusing. It's very, very confusing to me. So that's my rant on the Burry buy. Again, I don't even think GameStop is that crazy of a stock to buy. I just think it's weird for him to be so bearish AI, the broader markets, and then take this as his number one pick. Burry's trolling. I mean, I didn't read the Substack because I don't subscribe to it. I don't want to pay $500 a year to read the Substack. But for the people that have read it, I mean, the quotes that I've seen, I'll show you guys a couple quotes. He's pretty excited for it. And I mean, he's making an argument that he's not doing this for a short squeeze. Now, maybe he's lying, but it seems like he's long. He says that is not a common occurrence in the U.S. stock market today, with the downside protected by its tangible asset value. Being long GameStop is almost as asymmetric as it gets these days in the U.S. common stocks. He's saying GameStop is the most asymmetric bet in the stock market. I believe in Ryan. I like the setup, the governance, the strategy as I see it. I am willing to hold long-term, and I am excited to see where this goes. I am 15 years his senior, but not too old to be patient. I am not counting on a short squeeze to realize long-term value. I just thought that, I mean, like, that's a lot of faith in one guy. And again, I don't think it's crazy to have that faith in Cohen, but then to be simultaneously bearish on everything else is weird. But that's what you got from Mr. Burry in GameStop. So the question is, who's buying GameStop now? I thought about it for a little bit today when it was pumping. It was up 8%, but I was like, it's already up 8%. There's no point of like aping into it. And then it ended up falling down and lost 50% of its gain. But I'm also just like, does Burry have the Roaring Kitty, even if as a trade, right? Just to like ride it back up to 30 or something. Can Burry really pump this? I don't know. Roaring Kitty can. Roaring Kitty puts out one tweet, this thing is going up. Burry puts out some 7,000 word article. I don't know if that's enough to get this thing to go up. So we're going to have to see. But GameStop right there, 24 bucks. That is up 4.4%. All right, cool. That's what we got on GameStop. Again, UNH is dumping for those that just joined because of 8.4% now, a new proposal from the White House that would increase rates on the Medicare Advantage plan. Not the best for health insurers. And that's why we're seeing UNH down about 9% here right now. All right, macro stuff. Let's get into a bunch of different headlines we had today. First of all, layoffs. Nike is cutting 775 jobs as it ramps up automation at its U.S. distribution centers, with most of the cuts tied to its facilities in Tennessee and Mississippi. So not a massive layoff from Nike. We did have that Amazon headline last week of 14,000 jobs that are going to be start to laid off over the next coming months, continuing from the original 14,000 in October. But you do have some layoffs from Nike, and we're seeing some of that pain right there. This chart I thought was really interesting as well. U.S. data center construction jumped 18.5% year over year in October 2025 to a record $42 billion annualized run rate. This is just $3 billion below the $45 billion that was spent over the past year on office buildings. I thought that was pretty incredible. This comes as spending on data centers has tripled since the ChatGPT launch in November 2022. Over the same period, office building construction has declined by negative 40%. So once again, the argument that NVIDIA made with CoreWeave today, Jensen was saying we want CoreWeave to be a trusted partner, and we think that there is way too much of a super cycle of a build out to not support the neo clouds that are actively helping us. In this case, CoreWeave was their pick. If we're seeing data centers overtake office buildings, which, commercial real estate has been a pretty good bet in the United States, not really in the past couple of years, but definitely over the past 40 years. If data centers end up taking that over, I think that's a hell of an argument for why the neoclouds continue to do well. And obviously the overall infrastructure around AI continues to be really strong. And this goes back to the conversation that we've had about Anthropic over the past couple of days. More and more use cases, more and more integrations with common applications that all of us use, like Excel. H100 rental prices go higher. So it just seems to keep developing the argument that there are use cases for AI, not just an LLM chatbot and FSD. And if the use cases keep compounding, that should be good for NVIDIA and AI in general. Maybe they will retrofit to office buildings. I mean, it wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, an office building in a city is likely not going to be able to be transformed into a data center that easily. But the trend from work from home, it's not necessarily as trendy as it was back in the pandemic, but you do have a lot more people thinking, or a lot more companies, even if they're not super big companies, that are thinking, what's the point for us to rent an office when a lot of this work can be done remotely? And in that case, that headwind might end up being the tailwind for more data center progress to take over commercial real estate. This chart I also thought was pretty interesting. Atlanta Fed put out their GDP estimates for Q4. Now, remember in Q4, we had something happen. That something was called a shutdown. Still, the Atlanta Fed is saying GDP will increase by 5.4% in Q4. I thought that was incredible because, you had a lot of people estimating that GDP would be below 4% in Q4 because of the shutdown. The Atlanta Fed is not always exactly accurate, but if they are, and we grow 5.4% in Q4, even with the 40-day shutdown, which is a lot of money. I think it's like $3 billion a day that we're losing for 40 days. That just shows, in my opinion, the strength of the American economy from the private sector. And it also proves the argument that whatever is in the big, beautiful bill that is opening up regulations, zoning restrictions, et cetera, all the stuff that's unleashing more and more investment, especially from the CapEx perspective, that is a good thing. So I think if we see that happen, that would be bullish. But ultimately, we're going to have to wait a month for that GDP data and see how it ends up playing out. Gold and silver getting dumped after hours right here, back to 104. Back to 104. This thing was at, look at that. This thing was at 108, right? Right at the close. It was at 118 in the morning. Now down to 104. So you're seeing that one get a little bit more pain after hours as well. In terms of the Skywater acquisition, again, IONQ bought them. There's not much to say about that other than IONQ bought them. I did think the buyout was for a very small premium. Quite frankly, I didn't think there was any premium attached to it given the potential of Skywater, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they agreed to get a buyout. So 1.8 billion, IONQ now owns them. And I think it's a great acquisition for IONQ. I was surprised that Skywater actually sold so much. So yeah, I think IONQ got a great deal, but didn't expect them to sell that early. And then there you go, silver right there. Even gold, if it loses $22 right here, it'll be below 5,000. SLV after hours, 95. That's the lowest it's seen today. 95 on this one. Again, volume on this thing, absolutely gigantic. Over 400 million shares traded today as that one is dipping 3%. We talked about the UNH headlines 20 minutes ago. That's why those are getting hit. Yes, Kevin Hearn did sell his UNH last week. I guess maybe that, I mean, it is kind of sus when a politician is selling $500,000 of a stock and they sit on the committee that is in charge of health. Again, like whether he knew or didn't know that the White House would be proposing these new rates, the perception of it is so obvious that it makes it look like a conflict of interest, which is why people think that the politicians have insider knowledge. Maybe he didn't, but I mean, the whole thing is perception when it comes to insider trading, and it obviously looked like he definitely did. So that's what we got with the UNH headline. Yeah, almost exactly perfect timing at that point. Okay, a couple other charts and different headlines to look at. Take a look at this. I thought this was pretty incredible. ETF inflows so far in January, 121 billion. The average January ETF inflow in aggregate is 40 billion. In January's, the all-time record was set last year at 88 billion. And we still have 1 week left to go in January. VOO, which basically tracks the broader market, 19 billion. VOO's average daily inflow is what ETF's daily average was 10 years ago. This ultimately is showing up to be the new normal for the broader market. As you can see right there, XLF Financials brought in 3.6 billion so far this year. So people are going long financials. RSP, the S&P 500 equal weight, that is getting a decent chunk of flows at 4.7 billion. And then GLD brought in 2.5 billion. That is one of the largest gold funds. And that's getting some more momentum as well. What is SPYN? Is this, yeah, this is just the S&P? Is this just a derivative of the S&P? I think that's what it's up 1.39%. I guess that's just tracking the S&P. So that from State Street, that one also getting some decent inflows as well. Is this toppy? I mean, I just think like people don't want to hold on to cash. We saw money market funds starting to decrease. You're seeing more and more people think that holding on to cash is not the right way to allocate capital. Obviously, gold and silver now a record $40 trillion market cap. So I don't think it's too toppy. I think people just want to find new assets to put their money into. And that's kind of what we're seeing right here. Again, silver had its best day today since 2008. It's not crazy to see it take a breather right here. 94 now, just lost 95, down about 3.9%. And we're going to see, does this get really ugly or do buyers step in and kind of buy this dip? I mean, it would be kind of crazy if we saw the top for silver on its best day since 2008. But then again, would it be that crazy? I don't know. Over time, we're going to find out. Tess says, bye, guys. I just got to Dougie and we're going to go party. Tess, enjoy your conference and your party. She is enjoying the nice sun, but soon she will be enjoying the nice snow in New Jersey. Dude, honestly, the snow is starting to melt in Jersey. It's not even that bad anymore. Like, I feel like they really hyped it up. I don't know. In other parts of the country, maybe it's worse, but in Jersey, it's like, I don't know, it's melting. It's like, it doesn't look as aggressive. But for those that are coming to the meetup, you guys will feel a little bit of the cold this Friday. It's snowing again this weekend? What? Is it? Oh, shit. Yeah. Is it going to be that bad, though? Is it going to be like yesterday? 60% chance. Goodness gracious. It's going to feel like -8 degrees. All right. I guess we'll have to deal with it. Yeah, it's going to snow again while we meet up. Probably. 200,000 people in Nashville without power. See, in Jersey, I didn't hear a lot about power outages. And I thought I was going to lose power because my building tends to lose power on a regular day. But we ended up not losing it. But I just didn't hear too much about it. Davis will enjoy it because he's coming from Vegas. Dude, it was great. It was snowing in Vegas when I went there to climb the mountain or whatever. Dude, Davis, basically you and me had a Alex Honnold type of moment. We didn't have a rope. We didn't have a harness. We climbed up Red Rock. I know it wasn't Taipei 101, but I mean, we were putting our life. If we fell, we would have died. And realistically, dude, if I fell off Red Rock, I mean, it's over, you know? So I kind of feel like we got some Alex Honnold in us, to be honest. At least just a little bit. At least just a little bit. Any plans for a fan meetup in LA? Yes, we're doing LA March 28th. I will have full details next week, but March 28th, book the day. I think that's a Saturday. Officially, we'll be having the meetup, and it'll be exciting. All right, what else we got? What other headlines? SMCI credit agreement provides $710 million revolving credit facilities, option to increase facilities up to $2 billion. This stock has been a disaster over the past year. SMCI up a little bit after hours. All right, they have access to more credit. Their margins still suck. That's not helping, but that's one headline on SMCI. UNH, wow, still going, folks. 8.3%. Humana also 13%, still going down as well. Those two not playing out. Are you still up on COPEX? Yes, I bought 10 calls on Friday at $12 for 100 Jan 2027. I think those calls were up like 20% today. They were up, yeah, 2,800 or 23%. Here's my thing about copper. And again, I'm trying to do a lot more research on it, understand it at a deeper level. My fear on copper, and I'm going to keep saying this, and I'm going to make this very explicit in the Substack, is I think if silver and gold have an epic top, all the research in the world is not going to save every other commodity from getting hit. $100 strike, so they're not in the money. And I mean, I was just looking at silver and COPEX today. I was just looking at how they were moving, and it was like silver goes down, COPEX goes down, silver goes up, COPEX goes up. And there's a little bit of deviation within the price action, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, I don't think we can be naive enough. If silver falls 20%, I don't think copper's surviving that. I think copper's going down with it, and so are the copper miners. And so I don't know, dude. Like the only fear I have, this is a very small position, 10 calls. It's like, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm scared to upsize the position massively because although copper hasn't run like silver, it's scary. If silver tops, I think all the metals top with it. And I'm not saying this as a commodities expert. I'm just saying this is like, you know, when look at silver, 93.59 after, when something in a sector tends to top out, the derivatives of that, I mean, they tend to top out with it. It's happened over and over again in the stock market. Now, if you're super bullish commodities, you don't give a shit. And, you know, those fears literally have not mattered at 40 silver, 50 silver, 60 silver, 70, 80, 90, 100. Like, it's just not going to matter because you think we're going higher. And that adds to the fundamental case behind any of the commodities that you're part of. But that one to me does feel a little scary here. So we're going to find out. Gold right here, dropping after hours with silver. Wow, gold potentially losing 5,000 right here. That entire move might be erased in the after hours, which is not unlikely. We've seen this happen a couple times, and then the next day just rockets back up. You said there's a shortage. Yes, 100% there's a shortage. But there's also a shortage of silver. I just think the perception of the shortage might not match the reality of it in the short term if there is a local top, which means the entry price that people have might be dead money for a while. Now, inevitably, the reality will be that there's a shortage, demand has to go higher, yada, yada, so prices have to go higher, yada, yada. But still, like, it could still get pretty ugly in the short term, regardless if people decide just to sell it off. So I think it's one of those things to at least think about a lot more deeply. Yeah, and the other thing is, like, there might be a rotation out of Meta into metals into AI earnings. I think 100%. I mean, if Meta, Microsoft, and this is why I don't think anyone should go balls to the wall on the commodities right now. I mean, if you want to have a little bit of exposure, that's okay, but I don't know if this is the time to get super, super bullish. If Meta puts up another 27% growth quarter, if Microsoft reminds everybody why Nadella is Nadella, it's going to be really hard for me to see money not flowing into these. And people are going to have to sell something to get the money to put into large caps again. That might be the metals, which would not be that crazy. Now, if Meta misses, yeah, that's going to be ugly. I mean, who realistic? Okay, let's do a poll in the chat. I think I did this poll last week. But let's see what people are thinking. Who realistically thinks that Meta dumps on earnings? Meta pump or dump? What do we think? I want to say they pump. I really want to say they pump. But I'm also just like, they kind of have pumped already, right? Like, they kind of have. So how much more room do we really have to go? Meta's dumping when Zuck is going to announce 100 billion capex. It was 72 billion last time, right? Yeah, 100 billion, I think, might be a bit aggressive. Are we still falling on silver? Are we still getting dumped? It bounced off 92, still 93. What's going on with this market? Silver pumps 15% and is red now in the same day. Extremely high quality companies are flat and Burry shilling GameStop. It's the greatest show on earth. Greatest show on earth. Here's the thing. If he announces 100 billion in capex, Nvidia should go up as soon as he announces that. On the call, Zucks just needs to calmly explain why the hell they're spending that much money. And if it's just advertising, I don't know, dude. You get a little scary. The street is not that forgiving when it comes to this stuff. I think he's just got to say a lot more. CNBC was saying Meta could increase their capex by 40%. Which again, it's not bearish. That's great for AMD. They buy a lot of chips from AMD. Great for NVIDIA. If Meta Compute wants to be a new business they can put out to the world to compete with GCP and Amazon, I'm all for it. But Zucks has to clearly articulate that. NVIDIA right there, down a little bit after hours. Meta again also down a little bit. Oh yeah, this was a big thing from Hood today. This is actually really important. Single stock options like NVIDIA and Tesla will now expire 3 days a week. So you can now sell calls or buy calls on a bunch of different names. SLV, the ETF, actually has this already on Robinhood, I saw today, where you can do a 3-day covered call versus a weekly call. So, I mean, for people that are like generating income off their stocks, if you buy 100 shares of Amazon and you think it's not going to go to 245 by Wednesday, instead of having to wait till Friday for your calls to expire, you can sell a call for Wednesday and collect premium in 2 days. And then if you're right, you can then sell another call on Friday. Or you could buy Monday morning and then sell the call for Monday afternoon. So the really good thing for Robinhood is that there's going to get a lot more call option volume, which is outside of crypto, the juiciest form of revenue they get. I think they get about 47 cents a contract. But it's also good for option sellers or even option buyers that want to build out bigger positions. So eventually we'll have 0 DTE Tesla options. Yes, eventually. We're not there yet, but eventually it'll get there. You have to watch CME. Shanghai starting to be more aggressive with 17% margin rates. So if CME starts being more aggressive, you can see a jump from 9% to 15%. Yes, I mean, this has been the reason why silver topped in 2011, right? For like 5 days in a row, the CME kept increasing the margin rates. I mean, I think that's a legitimate bear case. It's just the overwhelming amount of demand that has come into silver seems to so far be withstanding whatever margin requirements that are increased by any of the brokers. Now, if it is a bubble, then eventually, if people realize that it's I mean, if silver were to fall to 80 tomorrow or SLV were to fall to 80, I wonder how many people in retail would be like, dude, I bought this thing at 50. I'm getting the hell out. I'm not waiting any longer. Or I wonder how many people that bought it at 100 today would be like, I'm taking my $20 loss. I'm getting the hell out. I'm not going to be around for this. And that could create another cascading compounding effect down with silver getting hit. Yeah, silver erases previous gain of 14%. And it's just a classic situation of when bubbles get, and then I think copper gets hit too. I think gold gets, this is why the commodity stuff is interesting. And I feel like it could be a part of the portfolio if you really dive deep into the research and want to be long. But I don't know if it's like a trade you ride with anymore just because so much of the move has already happened. But then again, maybe this is a normal reaction after a 14% day and it rockets back up over the next couple of days. Like, it's just hard to predict, which is why I think a lot of people are sitting out of it. For those that are joining right now, UNH is down because of the White House 8.5% introducing new rates on Medicare Advantage plans, which are not the best for health insurers. UNH, Humana, CNC, Elevance, all of them are getting hit. You're just hating on your uncle. Trust me, I'm not hating on my uncle. He's up a lot of money on this thing. But even I was talking to him today. I was like, hey, if silver tops, what do you think happens? And he's like, he was like, there is a world in which, yeah, everything gets hit if the big guys like silver and gold top. I mean, if NVIDIA and AMD were to top for whatever reason, like full on top, they both fall 30%. It's like an obvious top. Do we really think Nebius and Applied Digital and CoreWeave are going to out? No, they're all derivatives of freaking NVIDIA and AMD. So like he's up multi six figures at this point on copper because he bought in very early, but even he's acknowledging like if we get a local top, it can get ugly. Now, he also thinks we're not going to get that local top because he thinks we're in a really big commodity super cycle, which I think he might be right about, but if he's not, then I don't know. But maybe all that money goes into Bitcoin, which would end up helping all of us. And hopefully Ethereum as well. Speaking of Bitcoin and Ethereum, are they running after hours? For those that are just joining, Burry bought GameStop. You could rewind a little bit. We talked about it. That was the new name that he went long. AMD right there down about 0.22%. ETH, yeah, up a little bit after hours, 29.34. Bitcoin back to 88. What else do we have? Hard to imagine being gold, long gold or silver, not selling. One of the analysts at some bank came out today and said, sell everything when it comes to gold and silver. He was like, whatever you've got, it's time to sell. So, I mean, now I don't know if that's the reason why silver ended up midday moving down. I think that came out in the morning, but you did have some analysts. I'm just trying to find what bank it was. Cactus, if you know what bank it's from, let me know. It's one of the big banks that was just like, it's time to take some profits on this thing. And I don't think that's crazy. I mean, best day since 2008. Yeah, you could understand why some of these analysts are like, all right, it's time to take profits here. 10-year after hours, still relatively flat. Nothing too crazy right there, 4.213. Let me see if we have any other major headlines here. Again, big tech earnings, that's going to be the big thing this week for what we end up seeing with the broader S&P. Especially because the S&P is so allocated to big tech. We have some coverage on the yen. Besant, he'll be talking tomorrow. Besant's going to be hosting some conference for the Trump accounts soon as well. So that's going to be pretty important. That's going to happen on Wednesday. Nicki Minaj will be joining him. I'm not sure exactly why, but she will be there. And Trump will be there live as well. Here's some coverage on GameStop, and then we'll try to get a couple of other headlines here.
Burry of The Big Short fame wrote today that he has been buying the stock. He says he's not counting on a short squeeze or a meme stock resurgence, but likes the CEO and the fundamentals. In this case, I guess the fundamentals being Ryan Cohen's a smart young guy, and he's going to invest the money intelligently.
Exactly. I mean, he didn't say it was a good business. He said it was a crappy business. Exactly. His word, crappy, not mine. And that Ryan Cohen is basically milking what he can out of it. So yes, to the point of he is a very good manager and he's going to get the most out of the business. But I can vouch for he will. When was the last time he said, let's check on GameStop shares?
No, it's been forever. There was a while when we pretended the earnings mattered and we look at how
even AMC.
And anytime it encountered the fundamentals, it would sell off. Although Burry did kind of try to talk about how he has a collectibles cred. he's actually into it, which really is GameStop's business now.
That's true.
Is a lot of the secondhand collectible stuff. So, and by the way, taking a crappy business and then investing smartly, that's the story of Berkshire Hathaway.
Right. Oh,
because that was a textile company that was dying. And Buffett says, unfortunately, ended up owning it and had to go do other things.
I thought you were going to go.
By the way, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Of investing in a crappy business and making it a little bit less crappy equals huge gains.
Right. And it can sometimes, yes.
Yeah, again, it seems like Buffett or Burry's investing because he thinks Ryan Cohen can have a Berkshire Hathaway type of takeover, turn it into a holding company. Not saying Cohen can't do it. It's just that's an incredible thesis compared to trusting Jensen. And again, this whole CoreWeave thing, Jensen was pretty damn bullish. Now, he was not the most bullish OpenAI based on how we talked about them today, but he was pretty damn bullish CoreWeave. Ironically, one of CoreWeave's largest customers is OpenAI. But he was pretty bullish on the idea of this super cycle build out when it comes to AI data centers and continuing to invest more deeply for what that ecosystem ultimately will look like.
5 gigawatts of AI factories by 2030. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang joined Squawk on the Street earlier, had this to say about the deal.
We're making a significant investment in them, incredibly happy that they're going to sign up and dedicate themselves to our architecture for the next 5 gigawatts and many years to come. And the thing that is happening here is that, as you know, CoreWeave has used NVIDIA's architecture for GPU computing as well as networking since their founding. But they're also now going to add NVIDIA's CPU as well as our storage platform based on Bluefield. So our CPU is Vera. It's completely revolutionary.
CoreWeave, of course, has had.
So Jensen, pretty damn bullish on this overall partnership. CoreWeave, again, did get to $108 today. A couple other things that I think are really important, and then we'll probably end out for the day. Again, UNH, the reason it's dumping, we talked about it. Headline from the White House on increasing Medicare Advantage rates. UNH right there. Wow, 9%. Lost 320 right there. Dude, the irony of us saying UNH is going to be a big earnings tomorrow morning, and less than 2 minutes later, UNH down 9%. Absolutely freaking crazy. B of A says time to rotate out of overdone AI tech positions, favor international emerging markets, commodities, gold, smaller value stocks instead. B of A has been pretty bullish for the past, bearish for the past 2 years now. Last year, they thought we would only get 1 rate cut. We ended up getting 3. So, again, their argument about rotating out of overdone AI tech positions, I don't think they're talking about large caps because I don't think any of them are necessarily overdone. But there's probably some smaller names in the AI space that have run a lot in January. And I think you're already seeing a sort of natural rotation from that to large caps. Now, again, BOA is saying, hey, buy gold at 5,000. I don't know. Especially since most of these banks had 5,000 as their end of year target, where they're at end of January. It might take a little bit more energy to end up buying those names. Okay, here's something I thought was really important as well. So we talked about Nancy Pelosi in terms of her stock purchases. Here's a chart that I thought was really interesting. These are the members of Congress whose stock portfolios are performing the best in 2026 so far based on the 13Fs, or not the 13Fs, but the SEC filings that have already been disclosed. Tim Sheehy, Senate Republican, is up 40% year to date. Aaron Bean is up 38%. Rick Scott up 20%. Nicholas Begich up 28%. And then Chip Roy up 20%. The first 5 people that are outperforming are all Republicans. Then you have Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's up 20%. And she is one of 2 Democrats in this entire list. Kind of incredible to see politicians performing. I mean, Tim Sheehy is up $7.3 million this year. This is a website called Quiver Quantitative. I'll put the link in the chat. They actually do a really good job at tracking all this stuff. I cannot believe the guy's trading with this much money as a politician, but nonetheless, he is. And he's up 40% this year. So it does pay, I guess, to be a politician in some respect. Now, someone who is also going to be really important to take a look at, Rick Reeder. He is at 60% odds to become the new Fed chair. Here's a compilation of how he's talked about rate cuts and fiscal policy in the past. It looks like he's pretty damn dovish.
I think you got room to get that funds rate down 100 basis points.
Why aren't they all talking as if they have room? And not everybody agrees with your assessment. They're worried about sticky inflation. They look at the CPI and they say, well, yeah, it beat expectations, but it still shows that it's still a bit of a problem and it's above our target.
So, Scott, I think there's something that's really important. How the interest rate tool affects inflation. You think about the Fed raised rates 500 basis points. The impact on the economy, inflation, I would argue, not terribly significant. The interest rate tool doesn't do a lot today. You think about how companies finance CapEx, big cap. You're not borrowing. You think about the banks are asset liability. The interest rate tool is not that important, except for a couple of big factors. What it does to housing, and you look at mortgage applications, building permits, housing starts, new home sales,
frozen,
stuck. The mortgage rate has to come down. You drop the funds rate, there's some yield curve steepening that probably happens. And then the other side.
I mean, listen to what he's saying. He's like, hey, we got to open up this is from August 2025. We got to open up the housing market. We got to drop the funds rate so we can drop the yield on the 10-year bond. I think Trump is listening to this and is like, hey, the credit markets like him. He's not unconditionally loyal to me or perceived as unconditionally loyal like Hassett or Warsh. And so he's a dove. He's not seen as just like my guy. And as a result, that's why he might become the next Fed chair.
Part of it is the low income people who are the borrowers. You're actually, they are getting hurt by this. High savings, older people are actually benefiting from the high rates. And the last thing that I will say, I don't think the funds rate has to be at 4 3/8. The cost to the government, we have too much debt in this country to charge an extra 100 basis points. When I think the transmission of how it impacts inflation that I think is dull to start with, is it worth it? It's a pretty high price to pay.
If the White House is listening to what you're saying right now, they're all standing up yelling, yes, yes.
We are now talking about a Fed that can move 25 basis points, and maybe they do it 3 times till the end of the year. Moving 25 basis points of the overnight funding rate is not that exciting. There are so many innovative things. When we finance resi, commercial real estate, asset backs, you think about cap stack, you think about what a Fed could do. So whoever ends up being the Fed chair, there's so many innovative things. How do you use the balance sheet? How do you use liquidity? Where on the yield curve is it?
I think if we get Rick Reeder, he's going to be pretty freaking decent, dude. Like, I like how he's talking about it. I'm sure Trump likes how he's talking about it. For all of us that want lower rates, it seems like he continues to be the guy. 47% right now on call sheet. This guy was less than 5% last month. I mean, it looks like he has a shot. Now, Kevin Warsh is still at 30%. Kevin Warsh is way more loyal, I would say, to the Trump administration just based on his history with them. Rick Reeder used to manage he's the CIO of BlackRock's fixed income fund. It's like $2.19 trillion. So the dude definitely understands the bond market very well and what it means to get yield. But the question is, will he become a Fed chair? And it looks like that may happen. Did you know he worked for Lehman for 21 years and jumped ship months before they imploded? Rick Reeder? Really? That was a smart time to leave. Did he work for Lehman? Yeah, head of global principal strategies at Lehman. Look at that. Left in 2008. Smart man. Got the hell out of there. Dude, for those that were living through the market in 2008 when Lehman collapsed, how crazy was it? Because I've seen The Big Short and I've seen like the Jim Cramer clip of buy Lehman and then like 3 days later it collapses or whatever. But the way it's described, it's almost like if like Morgan Stanley went out of business today. Like if it fully, like I don't think anyone can comprehend, at least in my generation, Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan or Bank of America or even our small regional. I mean, yes, we had Silicon Valley Bank, but like, like a really big financial institution just collapsing in front of us because of some bubble that's underneath the financial system that is now imploding and only a couple people knew about it. Like, could it happen? Yeah, but it'd be incredible to see that happen again. My family lost our house because of the fallout. When it was happening, I remember thinking my family would lose their house, even though I had no idea like what was happening. But I remember watching the news back in 2008 And I heard that was the headline. People were losing their house. And I don't know how tough it was for my parents. Again, my dad owned a liquor store. My mom was a teacher. They were both maybe making 40, 50,000 a year. They actually bought their house in 2005, which was not the best time to buy a house. So I don't know how they pulled it off, but we ended up not losing our house. That was pretty aggressive. Zoe says, I was out partying and ended up buying a house really cheap. My dad actually, 2009, him and his brother ended up taking out a loan from the bank and buying an investment property. So they did end up buying a house in the carnage of 2009, which they still have to this day. But even them doing that, I remember how stressful that was, and like it was not an easy process for them to get approved for that loan. And he had to put up his liquor store as collateral, basically, which means the liquor store had to like produce revenue. And there was a recession. It wasn't, I mean, maybe that fueled people buying alcohol, maybe, but they ended up closing the liquor store in 2011 because it just wasn't profitable enough to keep it going. Yeah, Bear Stearns as well. Citi was $1. Let's look at those bank stocks, dude. Citi, 2008. 2008. Wow. 550 in May 2007. This one's probably split adjusted. $19, February 2009. My goodness. What about BAC? $51, 2007. $3.79, 2009. This is when Buffett made a big deal with Bank of America and bought pretty damn cheap. Yeah, Fannie and Freddie collapsed. It was pretty incredible, dude. It was ugly. The guest we had on the podcast that Steve and I are launching, by the way, it'll officially be out on, we already have the second guest booked for this Friday. So we'll have 2 episodes in the backlog. It'll be out on February 5th. So we're going to put it out every Thursday night. That's when we want to put out the podcast. So we're getting 2 episodes put in and putting out February 5th. But the guest we had was talking about the lost decade for the S&P 500 from 2000 to 2009. And it's a really good moment where he's describing dot-com bubble, a little bit of a rebound, then the housing crash, and then you get all the way to 2009. The S&P 500, if you bought in December of 1999, basically has been unchanged for 10 years, and you lost money because of inflation. I mean, could we imagine a lost decade for the S&P 500 with all of our ADHD and like we have to buy and looking at candlesticks? Could we imagine our generation, not just like millennial or Gen Z, but just like our generation of investors that are here, having a lost decade for the S&P with social media and the news and how hyper-focused we are on everything? It would be kind of crazy. Trump just tweeted, okay, here we go. Our trade deals are very important to America. In each of these deals, we have acted swiftly to reduce our tariffs in line with the transaction agreed to. We, of course, expect our trading partners to do the same. Oh, boy. South Korea, you're up next. South Korea's legislator is not living up to its deal with the United States. President Lee and I reached a great deal for both of our countries on July 30th, 2025, and we have reaffirmed these terms while I was in Korea on October 29th. Why hasn't the Korean legislator approved it? Because the Korean legislator hasn't enacted our historic trade agreement, which is their prerogative, I am hereby increasing South Korean tariffs on autos, lumber, pharma, and all other reciprocal tariffs from 15% to 25%. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Is silver and gold going up on this? Is silver and gold? This is uncertainty, right? This is what silver wants. Silver's going up, baby. This is hilarious. Look at that silver. It's a small bump, but 93.20 to 94.22. Look at that. You see that little speck of green you got right there? Hilarious. Freaking hilarious. Bitcoin getting a little bit of a move. Whereas the S&P? S&P is basically flat after hours, a little bit of red. Every time you think silver is dead, Trump's just like, well, I'm going to increase some more uncertainty into the market. People are going to sell off the dollar, and then silver is going to get some love. There you go. This is pretty freaking incredible, dude. pretty freaking incredible. Okay, so who believes this? UNH down almost 10% right here. So 15 to 25% tariffs now in South Korea. That's the argument. Trump, South Korea is not living up to their side of our trade deal. Until they do, I am increasing tariffs from 15% to 25%. I mean, there is a legitimate question on why South Korea hasn't signed the trade deal, but part of the reason might be because, I mean, a lot of this stuff was a bit aggressive that Trump was asking for, and maybe the South Koreans kind of said, yeah, of course, like, we love this deal, but in reality, they were never actually going to sign it. And now Trump is getting pissed off that they're not actually approving the deal. Until they do, I'm increasing tariffs on autos, pharma, lumber. Why should they, the Supreme Court? You know, they might be waiting for the Supreme Court to approve it. Here we go again. It is quite incredible. Quite incredible. Where's the tweet? I just put it out there. Let me pull it up right here. Did anybody sign? I think the Japanese signed. They were agreeing for like $500 billion of investments. Which, again, Japan's in a pickle, dude. Their bond yields are going up. Their freaking debt to GDP is over 250%. They want to stimulate and print more money. Like, I really wonder in the next 50 years. And their population is declining dramatically. Which, by the way, the United States is not doing the best on population either, which is honestly the bull case for the robots. But now you're seeing some of this hostility going to South Korea and these reciprocal tariffs. Silver after hours. Yeah, dude, it's really, I mean, I'm not saying it's pumping, but the bleeding has stopped. 92.30 to 94.40 and 93.80 to 94.40 right when this tweet came out. I mean, if this thing pumps back up to 97, 98, it would be incredible. Just based on more uncertainty. I don't know if the market's going to react that much, though. Like, first of all, I don't know if we do that much trade with South Korea for it to make a difference. Just like we don't do a ton of trade with Greenland. But second of all, you know, does the market even believe that Trump is serious about this? I have 4 kids. I'm doing my part for population growth. Maybe revenge against BlackRock. Dude, the freaking the Larry Fink got pretty interrogated. He didn't respond to anything, but there's this website called Rebel News. Some of you guys might have heard of them, but they went to Davos, and boy, did they go after all the elites to try to get them to say something. And bro just he didn't say anything.
Do you feel any responsibility for that? Don't touch my mic, mate.
Keep your distance. Why are your bodyguards such thugs, sir?
Larry, how are you doing this year in the spirit of dialogue? That's can we have a conversation this year? Are you up for a conversation this year?
What about the spirit of dialogue, sir? Did you mean it, or was that another lie?
Obviously, since last year, you've been, I guess, promoted to the co-chair. Is that because if you want a job done right, you might as well do it yourself?
Last year, you took photos of us, sir. What did you do with those photos?
Why are you so quiet? What does the spirit of dialogue actually mean, Larry? Does it mean anything? Is it like pretending you care about the carbon footprint coming here on a private jet?
Why is your bodyguard pushing me into the street, sir? Just asking you to keep your distance. Excuse me, sir. Watch the baby. Why was the would-be assassin of Donald Trump in one of your corporate videos, sir? Isn't that a bit weird?
Do you feel any responsibility as a Jew in the current climate where there's a rise in anti-Semitism and people blame Jews for everything, saying they want to control the world. And when they need evidence, they point to you. You're the example every anti-Semite gives, and it's hard to fight. Do you feel any responsibility for that? Don't touch my mic, mate.
Keep your distance. Why are your bodyguards such thugs, sir? Isn't that the true Larry Fink? You have all this BS about conversations and dialogue, but underneath it, you're a thug.
Spirit of dialogue. Spirit of dialogue. This is what it looks like here in Davos.
How do you feel about Donald Trump saying you can no longer buy up residential homes and rent them out for profit? Did you talk to him about that? Do you agree with him that you've been predatory in your pricing for residential houses in America?
Have you consolidated power by...
This video got 400,000 views. I'll link it in the chat if anyone wants to see it. If you read through the comments, I would say 99% of the comments are on the side of the reporters that were trying to get answers from Larry Fink. And I think the takeaway from that is the implication around the income inequality divide in society. I mean, when you see people like Larry Fink that have, so much power not be able to engage in dialogue with people, Silver still pumping after hours, that are asking him questions like this, but only engaging in dialogue with like Elon Musk or all these other people on some fancy World Economic Forum stage. I mean, you get a lot of regular people that are just like not a fan of him and not a fan of this global elite. Even David Sachs took the time to talk to these guys. Like there were some interviews where Kellyanne Conway, like they did this to a bunch of people and a ton of them actually, stayed on the street for 5 minutes and gave them a conversation. But when you see someone like Fink not respond to the stuff, given the power he has, I mean, it really pisses off a lot of people. And yes, the takeaway is populism once again continues to be fueled as a result of this type of divide. But time will tell to see if any of these policies even come to fruition. I mean, again, that whole idea of BlackRock not being able to buy homes, Trump put out an executive order last week, but like, is it actually real? Is it going to be enforced? UNH now down 10%, UNH down 10% on some Trump potential policy around Medicare Advantage rates. Is that even going to be enforced? Like a lot of this stuff, I mean, the credit card rate thing is a joke, right? Like nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. Visa, MasterCard, they haven't recovered fully, but I don't see some policy that's forcing them to do 10% rates. Does he have to talk to them? No, he's in his right to not answer any of those questions. It's just, again, if you're a regular person and you see someone who talks about the spirit of dialogue, not engaging in any dialogue with other regular people, instead only to other elite people on the stage. I mean, obviously it creates a perception of thinking like the guy might not actually be the friendliest guy in the world. So I think that could be an argument for other people as well. GEV, is that running up after hours? GEV is up a little bit on the day, 1.25%. Why was Zeta down today? Honestly, I have no idea. I have no clue. Software names are actually up. Oh, here's the thing about Zeta. This is actually really important. They might not be profitable next quarter. And I was doing a little bit digging today. The street's not expecting them to be profitable, and the Marigold acquisition might delay profitability for another quarter or two. So if they're not profitable, then I don't know if this one's getting as big of a pump as it wants. Now, granted, I think they're still going to have a pretty good quarter and get very close to profitability. But if they don't end up officially being profitable, yeah, that might not be the best earnings play. So we're going to have to see on that one. Again, I think it's going to be a good quarter. They're going to raise guidance, beat and raise, all that stuff. But profitability, now the street's not expecting them to be profitable. If they end up showing profitability, I think we get a big move. But if we're not going to get profitable this quarter, it might take a little bit more time to get there. Regardless, I still think it's relatively cheap. Silver, that Korea thing, pumping it up. Look at that, almost 95 on SLV after hours. Incredible. There's that little green right there. Absolutely incredible that one's making some momentum. What stocks did Steve buy today? Did he tell you guys he was buying some stocks? Was he saying yesterday he's going to buy some stocks? Because he did tell me that he bought 2 names today. But am I allowed to tell you guys what he bought? Or is he saving it for his show? I mean, you guys are not going to be that surprised. Oh, he posted on X? Okay, cool. Yeah, he bought Zeta and NVIDIA. I don't know if he's like keeping it a surprise or something. Bought Zeta and NVIDIA. Zeta and NVIDIA. Let me pull up his X. He changed his name on X to his full name. See, now I can't find him. Dude, X's search, okay, there he is the worst thing on the planet. Dude, what is this guy like? This freaking guy, bro. This is how he uses X. I may have started a new position today with 17 dots. Oh my gosh. I love how he uses X. What's his fun response? It's Zeta for those that are curious. I probably just leaked it, but that's what it is. Why are you using so many periods? There we go. Dude, imagine games. I remember my first tweet. That's so funny. That's so funny. All right, is that it? Are we done for the day? Again, earnings start next week. It's going to be more important. FOMC on Wednesday. We still don't have a name for the podcast, dude. We're still thinking of it. Couldn't figure it out over the weekend. Feel like I'm getting a little bit closer to what I want, but nothing is still sticking in the way that I think it can. S&P right there, 692.40 after hours. Sorry, I meant this week, not next week. This week. Wait, how much did you guys say pump or dump on Meta? Let's see what you guys said. Let's see. 70% said, all right, 70-30. Most people here are bullish on Meta making a move. Amit, if you were a Skywater shareholder, would you hold on to the IONQ or just sell now? Dude, I don't really understand quantum. And so I would take the money and run because I don't know what IONQ does. I don't know how they're legit. I don't know why people like them. But then again, I'm not a big quantum guy. I haven't really gone deep into it. I mean, let's hear from the CEO. He was on Bloomberg. Maybe we'll get a understanding of this guy. This was the same guy who said they will wipe the floor with NVIDIA GPUs by 2027. I don't know. You have to be bullish enough on the collaboration between Skywater and IONQ to hold them.
Does having a US-based chip foundry add to the speed of your own technology?
It actually does 3 exciting things for IonQ. The first is that it accelerates our entire roadmap. So we talked this morning on a public webinar, sort of earnings call style, about the fact that it's going to bring in the cycles of R&D, design, and packaging iteration we do to build our quantum computing chips and hence our full fault-tolerant machines quite considerably. We're moving things in by about a year on our 2 million qubit chip, and we're moving full fault-tolerant chips forward into 2028, where we'll have them ready for scale-up by the end of the year. What's exciting also is this is a big bet for us on what's called the merchant supplier play in the quantum industry. So IonQ already sells our atomic clocks to a number of quantum computing companies in the US. This is going to expand our ability to supply the quantum industry. Our photonic interconnect quantum networking business is also built to cater for multiple quantum computing paths and modalities. And last but not least, of course, it's a big spread bet on the US semiconductor manufacturing tailwind that I think is already being experienced for critical industries as we rethink through supply chains security and the importance of keeping everything domestic to ensure security.
Does that help build and leverage the relationships you already have with the US government, for example. Is that an area that you think is going to drive growth?
Oh, for sure. The U.S. government's a very important partner, and the Department of War, of course, is very important. Skywater obviously does a lot of work, not only for the quantum industry as a whole, where I would argue they are far and away the leading, if not only, quantum foundry. But Skywater also does work more broadly in classified programs, as does INQ. And so there's plenty of synergies on that vector alone. We look forward to doing more for our nation's government, classified and not. We look forward to doing more for our nation's Fortune 500 companies. And this is a relationship we're really excited about because it increases the velocity and the frequency with which we can spin wafers across all of our product generations, which means the further out we're talking, the more room there is to move things forward. And you're seeing us continue to spend money to move things to the left on our roadmap and win this geopolitical space race of our era.
Nicola, continuing to spend money. There's a lot of emphasis that this is Skywater with US-only operations. Do you look at Europe and other jurisdictions and give yourself backing to go out and do another deal if you need to have a similar footprint and presence in a different market or geography?
Well, Skywater has a tremendous amount of upside capacity that we can tap into here, not just on the design and engineering side, but on actual manufacturing. So we did this deal because we believe that manufacturability is paramount. Our ambition, as I think you both know, is to be both the NVIDIA and the Cisco, if you will, of the quantum computing and quantum networking and security space. And so our full quantum platform, networking, sensing, security, and computing all has foundry requirements, all has semiconductor manufacturing requirements. What this deal does is it improves certainty, brings forward the roadmap, and of course, make sure that we have industry-leading costs. So I think this is going to be enough capacity for global production. Skywater focuses on high security, classified program work and US government work. And that's usually a standard that's accepted very internationally for the Five Eyes, NATO, and our allies.
Nicola, in the global quantum race, how do you stack the US as a leader in field against the prospects of Europe and what you see being worked on in Asia?
What are we thinking, folks? You buying it or no? Again, this is what the guy said a couple months ago about NVIDIA.
Maybe even 2 million qubits in 2030. And that will allow us to solve problems that classical GPUs couldn't even solve if they had the known age of the universe to try and compute it.
So the Blackwell chip is going to look aged and dated in that scenario in the 2030s when you've got millions of QPUs.
It's going to look dated a lot sooner than that. I think by 2027 we'll have 10,000 qubits in our chip in partnership with our new friends at Oxford Ionics. Yeah. And honestly, that will wipe the floor, if you will, with any other supercomputer that exists on Earth.
Well, you talked about
maybe even
wipe the floor by 2027, folks. That is 360 days away, less than 365 days away. Wipe the floor with Vera Rubin or whatever NVIDIA's next version. What comes after Vera Rubin? Did they announce it already? They usually announce the names ahead of time. I mean, bro. I think he meant 2027 years from now. He said it, not me. He said, I'm not even missing that. You heard him just say wipe the floor with any other supercomputer. A GPU is a supercomputer that's out there. Like, that's him saying it. By the way, Silver still moving after hours, 94.51 on this Trump stuff. Vera what? Vera Feynman? Okay. Is that what Jensen's going to talk about at GTC? I'll be there. I'll be in San Jose. We'll get to see Jensen on the stage live again. Feynman. Okay, Vera Feynman. Feynman. All right, cool. I think that's what they're going to have to talk about, right? What else are they going to... They talked about Vera Rubin at this Vegas thing. So at GTC, I'd imagine they talk even deeper about the next generation models. Hopefully NVIDIA is sitting above $200 by then, which would not be that crazy. Trump just tweeted, I had a very good conversation with the mayor of Minneapolis. Lots of progress is being made. Tom Homan will be meeting with him tomorrow in order to continue the discussion. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump also did say he had a really good conversation with Tim Waltz a couple hours ago. I think Trump is recognizing, hey, I've got to compromise with these folks. Otherwise, this shutdown's going to get ugly. But he sounded pretty upbeat about dealing with what's going on in Minnesota. Maybe that's going to lead to some progress by the end of the week. They have a video of it already? Hold on. Vera Fine Man NVIDIA. Do they have a video for this already? Fein Man. Let me see if I can get a easier video of this. They introduced it a while ago. This was 9 months ago. I'm probably streamed this thing live. Fein Man. Fine Man. See if I can find it in the video. They have Blackwell, Ultra, GPU. This one's more about Vera Rubin. Yeah, so maybe this GTC. Oh, this was the last GTC, right? Okay, so definitely this GTC, they're probably going to talk about Fine Man more. Yeah, it's not really in this video. I mean, they mentioned it briefly, but not really talked about it as much. I mean, Microsoft did put out some new updates on their chips today as well, which was important. Let me see if I can get that video. They're trolling me on the name. Dude, how do you freaking say it? It looks like Fein Man, not Fine Man. This was the Nadella chip right here. We are telling you it's named after Richard Feynman, and someone asked you to pull up videos of Richard Feynman. Oh, that's what you're saying. I should do that then. Richard Feynman. Feynman. Why do I keep saying Feynman? Oh, this guy was a mathematician. Okay, here's a 1-minute clip of this guy.
My cousin at that time, who was 3 years older, was in high school and was having considerable difficulty with his algebra and had a tutor, Ken. And I was allowed to sit in the corner while the tutor would try to teach my cousin algebra. And so problems like 2x plus, I said to my cousin that, I said, what are you trying to do? You know, I hear him talking about x. He said, well, you know, 2x plus 7 is equal to 15. He said, and you're trying to find out what x is. I said, you mean 4? He says, yeah, but you did it with arithmetic. You have to do it by algebra. And that's why my cousin was never able to do algebra, because he didn't understand how he was supposed to do it. There was no way. I learned algebra, fortunately, by not going to school, by knowing the whole idea was to find out what x was, and it didn't make any difference how you did it. There's no such a thing as you don't do it by arithmetic, you do it by algebra. That was a false thing that they had invented in school so that the children who have to study algebra can all pass it. They had invented a set of rules, which if you followed them without thinking, could produce the answer. Subtract 7 from both sides. If you have a multiplier, divide both sides by the multiplier, and so on. A series of steps by which you could get the answer if you didn't understand what you were trying to do.
Okay, so ChatGPT is telling me this guy was most famous for revolutionizing quantum physics, quantum electrodynamics. He helped develop the modern theory of how electrons and photons interact. He won a Nobel Prize in the '65. He is most known for QED and Feynman diagrams, tools that changed how physicists compute and understand particle interactions. Okay, pretty cool. Hopefully his new GPU makes us some money. We'll see if that happens with NVIDIA's next edition of the chip. How do you not know him? Dude, I've never heard of this guy. I don't know that many quantum physicists. I feel like I know a decent amount of historical figures, even if I don't know like movie actors or whatever. But I've never heard of this guy. His IQ is 195. Dude, can we talk about the freaking Asian dude whose IQ is like 260, who's been predicting Bitcoin would go to the moon? I mean, this guy has been freaking tweeting for the past, like this guy, he has to be getting paid or something. He's recognized with the highest IQ in the world, 276, and he's tweeting about XRP going bullish. Look at this. Get ready. Monday goes insane. It starts now. He said this when Bitcoin was 95,000, saying it would go. He didn't he predict 100,000 by like January 23rd or something? That didn't happen. Like, it's pretty incredible that this guy is doing this. And he keeps making this argument. I've never seen a video of him, but let's see this. Why am I officially recognized as the highest IQ holder?
I am the world's highest IQ record holder, Young-Hoon Kim. This is everything you need to know about my world's highest IQ record. Why am I officially recognized as the holder of the world's highest IQ record?
Oh, it's got to be fake. This got to be fake, right? There's no way this is real.
IQ 276. Number 1. I earned a perfect score on the official Mensa admission test, and I am currently a full member of Mensa Korea. Second, I received a perfect score of 160 on the Wechsler Intelligence Scale, administered by a licensed clinical psychologist.
Okay, we're going to verify this shit with AI, bro. We're going to ask AI. Let's ask ChatGPT. Does this guy have an IQ of 270? There's no way this is real, right? He's seen as real online. ChatGPT says there's no statistical evidence. Vice journalists tried to look it up, couldn't find evidence. The Korea Times says that he did have a 276, but that's not the same thing as an independently published standard clinical IQ report. Me too, I'm 277. Bruh said the wrong Lee. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's got to be fake. It's got to be freaking fake. Search for the highest IQ. That's a good. Who currently right now has the highest IQ? Dude, I don't even know what my IQ is. I don't think I've ever done the test. There isn't a single university agreed. Terrence Tao, mathematician, often cited as having an IQ in the 225 to 230 range. That's what ChatGPT says. This guy, Australian-American mathematician. He's a genius at scamming, yeah. UCLA professor. Went to Princeton. You know, I got waitlisted from Princeton and Harvard. I got waitlisted from Princeton and Harvard, bro. I almost got in. Almost got into both. It's kind of crazy. Imagine if I went to Harvard. I feel like that would have ruined my life, to be honest. I feel like if I went to Harvard, I would have been so coddled and I would have thought I was such an elite person or whatever. I had to go to Rutgers. I had to thug it out in the state school with 50,000 other people. No, you didn't? Dude, I got waitlisted. I don't know if I have evidence for this. Probably, I don't know where I would find this from. They usually waitlist was in April, then they rejected me at the end of May. Dude, hold on. Is it? Do I have a? I'm gonna go on Snapchat. I'm gonna see if I have a memory of this. I definitely should have. This is 2016. See, that's the good thing about Snapchat. It actually holds a lot of this shit. 2016. No, I don't have this. All I have are snaps of me and my girlfriend back then. Mitt, you don't have a girlfriend. It's not possible. That never happened. Yada, yada, yada. Dude, where is this? I definitely have a screenshot of this somewhere. I have to have a screenshot of this somewhere. Were you a business or finance major? Business. Dude, I really did have a girlfriend in 2016. We broke up at the end of 2018. Where is this freaking screenshot? Let me go. You know what? I'm going to go to my mom's. Maybe I sent it to my mom. Maybe Apple indexed the photos from back then. She was not Canadian, no. There's no way I still have the email. Yeah, why would I have the email? It's from like 10 years ago. You would lie about Harvard and your girlfriend. Dude, I really did get waitlisted from Harvard, bro. Oh, hold on. Or am I in 2015? Oh, I'm close. Okay, maybe I sent this picture to her. How could I have not taken a picture of that, bro? Definitely, he still calls his cousin his girlfriend. That's crazy, bro. Oh, I don't have a picture of this. I don't even know where I can find it from. I also got waitlisted by Harvard. Dude, I really did. Like, I actually freaking did. I'm never going to find this shit. I got rejected straight up by Stanford. Stanford, I remember the rejection. I got straight up rejected. But Harvard actually said, we're going to take a look at you for another month. And then they were like, all right, you're out. Whatever, I can't find it, but it did happen. I don't even think he went to Rutgers. Genuinely, I'm happy I didn't go to Harvard. I really did. Like, so when I was on the USA debate team, which that did happen, okay, that was real. There were a lot of kids from a lot of private schools on the team. I was like one of the only kids from a public school that made that team. Almost all of them got into like Ivy Leagues. And I mean, I've seen how their life has turned out. They're like, a lot of them just like, they became super corporate, and it's like not that fun or interesting or exciting. You know, one of them actually, remember that company, LM Arena, that I called, what did I call it on that day? La Marina or whatever. The CEO of that company was on the USA debate team with me. He just posted on LinkedIn the other day. He's like, happy that we raised $150 million. I was like, bro, like, I didn't reach out to him yet. We haven't talked in a while, but like, I was on the USA debate team with him. I thought that was crazy. He was one of the kids that didn't end up going corporate. He was very academic. So he went to Berkeley and then Stanford for like mechanical engineering, super heavy research. But now he's the CEO of a company that just raised $150 million in the AI space, which is crazy. So he actually went more entrepreneurial. And then another friend I have, Arjun, who wasn't on the USA debate team, but he did a lot of debate. He is someone whose startup I might be investing in. He's also doing some cool stuff. But pretty much everyone else, dude, who goes to Harvard, they go corporate, they become a consultant, they get a cushy job, nice little multi-six-figure salary. They don't take a lot of risks. And I think that's very scary. Because at some point you start asking yourself, but like, what's the point of doing all that? And I really think if I went to Harvard, I could have gone that route. Like going to Rutgers forced me to like figure shit out on myself. And I failed at a lot of stuff, but like it really forced you to like figure it out. I think at Harvard, you would have been like, of course I'm going to get a job. Of course I'm going to get this. Like, I look forward. It's like, I'm meant to. I have a Harvard degree attached to me. It really is an elite. Those Ivy League schools, dude, they brand you in such an elite way. And it's hard to get out of that box. It's hard to do stuff that's different. It's hard to look like an embarrassment 4 years out of college when you're not making $250,000 at some corporate job with the Ivy League degree because you wanted to go do your own shit because all your friends and your entire friend circle is out living their best life. So I do think Rutgers was pivotal for that. Mick got waitlisted by High School Musical. That's hilarious. That's freaking hilarious. I got waitlisted at Hogwarts. All right, you guys don't believe it. But I need to freaking... How did I not take a picture of this? That is crazy how I did not take a picture of the waitlist. I have a pilot certification and A&P license makes me part of 0.1% of the population that can both solo fly and return to service a passenger airplane. Dude, I have so much respect for flyers and pilots. Like the ability to take a plane up and down is just crazy. Especially to be able to do it in a way that actually, gets people safely from one place to another. I'm going to my old email and I'm command effing Harvard. I'm not going to find this shit, dude. Not gonna find this shit. Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna find this shit, bro. Whatever. Maybe eventually I'll figure it out. Bro's prompting GPT to make him a fake waitlist. Can't believe I don't have a photo of this shit. You would think I would save something like that. All right, do we have anything else going on after hours? I don't think so. Yeah, because it doesn't exist. Mick got waitlisted for Minnesota's famous Leering Center. What do we got, dude? What do we got? S&P's flat. UNH recovering a little bit. It was down 10. Now it's down 8. AMD's flat. Microsoft's flat. Meta is still a big move. I don't think I'm playing any earnings this week with Meta, Microsoft, or Tesla. I own 2 of them, Meta and Tesla. I don't know if it makes sense to size up on these before earnings. It's just a little risky. And then Microsoft, although I think this one probably is the best chance of pumping because it's been so depressed compared to Microsoft and Tesla, or compared to Meta and Tesla. I don't know, bro. I don't know if Satya will deliver the goods. This one was $550 7 months ago. It's been stuck at $450. I'm not muted, bro. Will deliver the goods. I'm not freaking muted. Everyone, what, you guys randomly thought that I should be, you guys randomly decided to say I'm muted? I'm not muted, bro. Like I can hear on my iPad that I'm not muted. The trolling is not enough to get me to actually think I'm muted. Bro watches himself. No, I just have the iPad on the side to make sure that I can like increase the volume whenever something goes wrong. Are you streaming UNH tomorrow? No, I'm not streaming UNH, but I will be. I mean, we'll cover the earnings, which now have taken on a brand new role. But I'm not streaming them. Dude, I'm in my email in 2016. This is when I should. Yeah, I don't have it. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on right here. Look at this. Some real shit. Look at this. Okay, this is me. Look at this. My TOK teacher, Theory of Knowledge, May 12th, 2016. By the way, did you hear about the Harvard Business Program yet? Me to him. I don't hear back from Harvard until June 30th. So not yet. I don't hear back from Harvard until June 30th. So not, this is not AI slot, bro. This is literally from my AOL. It's not even my freaking Gmail. I messaged him on May 12th at 12 a.m. Hey, Mr. Mitchell, I didn't get to do this assignment when it was due because it was signed while I was at TOC, that's Tournament of Champions, and just could not focus on anything other than debate. As soon as I get back, IB test started and I lost track of the assignment. I finally got time to sit down and finish it. Hope you are doing well. Thank you. And then he says, by the way, did you hear about the Harvard Business Program yet? Because I was trying to get into Harvard. And I said, no, I don't hear back from Harvard until June 30th. So not yet. Dude, I'm telling you, this shit was real. Literally, that's command effing Harvard and trying to find something to prove. That's that's one of my teachers saying, hey, did you get into Harvard yet? Eventually, no, I got freaking rejected. That's gotta be enough evidence for you guys, bro. It's gotta be enough freaking evidence. Inspect element is old news. Chapter 6 was called Freedom because it was theory of knowledge. For those that have ever taken IB, it's like AP, but on steroids. Theory of knowledge in IB. It's like a philosophy class, essentially. Even the story I was saying this morning about the cheerleader, like I had too many specific parts of that story for you guys to think I was making it up. Look at this. Theory of knowledge is a compulsory critical thinking core subject in international baccalaureate diploma program, challenging students to reflect on the nature of knowledge, yada, yada. And that's when he said, hey, did you hear back from Harvard? Because everyone knew I got waitlisted. But I ended up not getting in. I still don't believe it. Whatever. He's still carrying this lie he told to his teachers. You did IB, me too. We were the only public school in Jersey that had IB. Yeah, IB is usually reserved for private schools, but our school got like some fancy rating in 2009, and so by 2012 they introduced it, and then by 2015 they introduced it, and that's how I got access to it. So I basically had the same classmates for 2 years. It was like 30 of us, and we just traveled from class to class together with IB. It's a do not reply email. Oh, man. All right. Do we have anything else about the markets, or are we done? I think that's pretty much it. Relatively boring day. All the rare earths got hit. Growth stocks got hit. Silver after hours getting hit, but starting to recover a little bit. ETH and Bitcoin, a little bit of love. We'll have the daily recap in a couple hours. That'll be posted. FOMC is on Wednesday. And then tomorrow, earnings in the morning. Macron just uploaded a selfie of him and Prime Minister Modi from India. We have UNH, UPS, Boeing, Next Era, American Airlines, GM, Raytheon, and HCA tomorrow morning. And then afternoon, we have Texas Instruments and Seagate, which are important. Trump is not live right now. He will be live on Wednesday. Got Europe warming up to India. Need to get this deal done. My dear friend Modi, dear Indian friends, my very best wishes on this great day of celebration. See you in February to continue building together. Okay. And that's what you got from Macron. Same also in Indonesia. I did IB. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it. It's like an international diploma. The only benefit of it was like it lets you get into any school internationally, but I was never going to go out of the country for school. So, I mean, it helps your GPA though. Shit pumped up my GPA like crazy. But I still ended 4th in my class. I should have been number 1, dude. I had a 4.255 GPA. I wanted to be number 1 to give the speech because I wanted to yap. But I ended up missing the speech because I was number 4. Would have been fun though. Would have been cool to watch that 10 years later. Another Burry rant. I already went on a rant on Burry. I don't think the GameStop thing makes any sense, but like it makes sense in a vacuum, but it doesn't make sense when you say AI is a bubble because then the whole market's going to collapse. GameStop's going to collapse. I don't really get it, but looks like that's what he's doing. Now bro just yaps here. Pretty much. All right. That's it. I think we're done. I'm not surprised you choked being valedictorian. Dude, being valedictorian was hard though, because there was this girl who was like, I remember her name. Her name was Bao, B-A-O. She was Asian, and she was just like, everyone used to know her as the girl who had zero social life. Like she did nothing else. She had no activities, but she got like a 99 on everything, if not 100. Like there would be nothing she would get wrong. And she wasn't an IB. She had all AP classes, but I remember me and my friends were like, bro, we're never going to beat her. Like starting from 9th grade. Like it was just straight A's for 4 years. I was like, dude, I'm traveling every week. Like I'm barely finishing assignments. There's no way I can compete with this chick. Now the speech wasn't really the best speech in my opinion, but nonetheless, she won it fair and square. And she was definitely Chinese. Bao, I forgot her last name, but she's definitely, I think she was Chinese. But look, she earned it. But man, did she like every assignment on time, 0 mistakes. I mean, I think I was in math class with her once and she got a 90 and she started crying. Like I legit remember this. She would not tolerate getting mistakes. I don't know what IB grade I got. I never checked the freaking test results. I never cared. Like, I took the test to get it over with, but I already got into Rutgers. So I was like, it doesn't even matter if I pass or fail this shit. So I literally don't know if I actually got the diploma or not. Like, I was checked out, dude. After the Tournament of Champions, which was the conclusion of my debate career, I ended up in octafinals. I should have got to semifinals. So that had pissed me off. I ended top 16. I should have been at least top 4. I was checked out for the rest of the year. We had 2 months of school left. I was done. So I didn't care. And then I got a 30. I flopped. Yeah, you need like a 37 or something to pass. I don't know what I got. Freshman with older GF, 4.25 GPA, Harvard acceptance. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it did happen. She was a year older than me. I did have a 4.25, and I didn't get it into Harvard. I got waitlisted, but it is what it is. You need a 25 to pass. 45 is the max. Yeah, you're right. I don't even know if I got a 25. I don't know. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Again, we'll be live tomorrow morning. We'll have a daily recap later. The Steve podcast that I still don't have a name for, that will be out in February 4th, next Thursday. Really excited about that. We're recording a second episode with a really fun guest this week on Friday. And then Meetup is on Sunday. So very, very excited for the Meetup. She got into Harvard. Dude, it's funny you bring that up. She got into Harvard and Stanford. And she went to Stanford. And then I did long distance for 2.5 years while I was in Rutgers. So I was freaking flying to California like every other month. Now, none of you are going to believe that shit either, but it's true. She got into Harvard and Stanford. She was super smart. That's part of the reason I wanted to get into Stanford. Like I was like, oh, we'll get to not be long distance. I ended up getting rejected. But you know, we still liked each other enough to do long distance. And she legit went to Stanford. That's why I've been to Stanford many times. Dude. I've been on that campus so many times. I've partied at Stanford. Like, Stanford's amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful campus. And first time I went was 2016. Stanford is very hard to get into. That's great. And I was really close with the debate coach at Stanford, who was a real big fan of my girlfriend at the time because she was going to debate under their program. And he even wrote me a letter of recommendation. Like, I begged him for a recommendation. He was like, I'll write something. And I really tried, just could not get through. You touch your nose, it's a lie. It's true. Can't make this shit up. Do you realize how unrealistic your story sounds with the more details you add? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it is true, but regardless if people believe it or not. All right, so I'll be live tomorrow. Yeah, I don't think anything crazy is happening tomorrow. Wednesday's the big day, but we have a bunch of earnings. Oh, Technical Tuesday, we'll do that tomorrow. And then after that, we got FOMC and Big Tech on Wednesday. ChatGPT is working hard. I got the iPad right there as ChatGPT loaded up. I'm just like prompting it to tell me new shit. I'm not going to show you a picture of her, dude. I'm not going to violate her privacy by showing her to a bunch of people. Like, I'm not going to do that. But like, it is true. I don't know what you want me to say, but it is true. Now, I know it sounds like I'm lying because I don't want to show you a picture because that would be obvious proof, but I also don't want to expose who she was. She didn't ask to be exposed to a bunch of people. Your audio is messed up. Anyone keep hearing he, her, she instead of him, her? That was a good one. That was a good one. That's funny. All right, that's it. I'm out. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll be back on the market open. We'll have a daily recap later in a couple hours. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.